Betty's birthday is on March 1st. This year, we continued the celebrations on March 2nd with a drive down Highway 5 headed for the desert. We spent the night at Roseanne's. Anza Borrego is east of San Diego, beyond the mountains, and there's no way to get there without driving through the LA freeway system. Despite a late start, it was slow going. My grandfather once had a vacation place in Lake Elsinore. When the lake was dried up, we stopped for lunch and to document the place. We continued our drive to Anza Borrego State Park, finally arriving at Borrego Springs in the middle of the park. We stayed here for several nights. The trail up Borrego Canyon leads to a large oasis, much of which was destroyed in a huge windstorm a few years ago. That night, BJ prepared a dinner party for all of us, and the dinner was followed by a birthday pie for Betty and testimonials.
To Betty, I just want to say that I always remember when we were doing our seating plan for our wedding. Sasha and I were
there was a big fight over Betty.
And every time we tried, we couldn't think of anyone that wouldn't be great sitting next to Betty.
The next day, Sam led us on a hike up Alcoholic Pass. After this long, steep hike, Diana, our other companion, went with us to the visitor center. The Borrego Springs Mall was a major cultural attraction for us during this trip. Later that evening, after the art opening, we went for a twilight walk up the wash near the visitor center. Earlier in the afternoon, we noticed that the wind had begun to pick up, but at dinner we had no idea that it would get worse by the next morning. BJ and Sam and Diana plotted a route back through Julian to San Diego where they would catch their plane, but Betty and I still had to drive. Our choices were to either sit there for the rest of the windstorm or perhaps to head east and find another way out and back through the desert. We headed east to the Salton Sea, stopping briefly at the town of Salton, and then north and then east again to the south entrance of Joshua Trees National Park. We stopped at the Cholla Cactus Garden and took the quarter-mile loop. Then we got back in the car and drove on to the Arch Rock area near the White Tank Campground, where there are beautiful campsites. The Joshua trees were not yet in bloom, so we continued north to 29 Palms for another adventure. We checked into a lovely adobe cottage with a view of the desert. After a brief rest, we went for a walk and visited the natural oasis on the grounds of the inn. Also, we saw their vegetable gardens, which are not yet fully planted. The next morning was calm and we began our journey northward, keeping the LA Basin to the west.
Mount your donkey, my good Sancho, and follow me, for God, who provides all things, will not fail us, especially since we are so much in his service, when he does not fail the gnats in the air, or the grubs in the earth, or the tadpoles in the water. He is so merciful that he makes his sun to shine on the good and the evil, and his rain to fall on the unjust and the just. Your grace would do better, said Sancho, as a preacher than as a knight-errant. Knight-errant knew and must know about everything, Sancho, said Don Quixote, because there were knights-errant in past times who would stop to give a sermon.
Finally, we crossed the southern part of the Sierras and came into Bakersfield, where we decided not to spend a night. We continued on to San Francisco, where we arrived late in the evening.